Right, Adam, thank you so much for hopping on today. This is episode 10 of the Founders Files podcast. So, what I want to jump into immediately is if you look back over your earliest years and little Adam Barker as a kid, what were things you think shaped or formed you to end up where you are today?
Firstly, I'm still pretty little, so I think little Adam still applies. um, I think, to be honest, the stuff that happened in my early days, like my parents split up when I was very young. I was six, I think I was about 5 or 6 years old, and that
Mhm.
had a very, very positive impact on me. And a lot of people will look back at that and go, "Well, that's a negative story that your parents split up," but it wasn't at all for me. So I am one of seven siblings, so I've always surrounded myself with like amazing, tight-knit people, and everybody supports each other. My parents are exactly the same. They both went on and remarried, and we've got a fantastic network of family. And having that fantastic network kind of shaped me to want to do that again in business. And I can't say I've always done that in business, but now I'm so focused on doing that, and it's helping me scale up my business massively. So I think
Okay.
having that mindset of just surrounding yourself with decent people that share your vision and will support you, and just cut anyone off that doesn't support you or shows you any negativity at all, is absolutely key.
I mean, I think that's super interesting. I myself am also a child of divorce, and for me, again, that's been a extremely positive experience.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of people, probably a lot of people watching this, have had divorced parents, but also a lot of them had probably quite negative experiences with that. So, how, as like a young 6-year-old, or maybe it's a little bit more hindsight 2020 looking back, but how, as a young 6-year-old, did you essentially take that, spin that into something positive that's benefited you today?
Um, yeah, I think just, well, I suppose a bit of resilience going through something like that at six. I can't remember it being a very traumatic time because I spent a lot of time with both parents, and I still do see all of them now. Um, well, I guess having that kind of, yeah, resilience to bounce back and want to turn something into a positive, right? There's that classic saying, which is one of my favorites, is you get to choose your hard. So for someone going through a split family, you can either choose for that to be a really horrible time and full of negativity, or you can spin it and say, well, I would rather see my parents both happy. I'd rather be in a happy household or two happy households, and just you choose your hard, right? So I would rather choose that positive outlook on everything and try and see the great in everything. And I think I started that from a very young age, and I think I still do that now daily. I mean, I come across hurdles all the time in business, and it's how you spin them into something positive, how you turn them into a lesson learned rather than a pain point.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. And do you do anything like journaling or positive like affirmations? I know some people are really into that kind of stuff
I think to
because I
kind of
know you and you're a very positive person.
Yeah, I'm into positive affirmations, and I'm
Okay.
very into kind of like holding people accountable and celebrating successes, right? So I run a property kind of networking thing in Southampton, which is, I don't know, it's probably 25, 30 of us that attend every month. And we spend a lot of time focusing on what everyone's winning with, how we can support other people to get them to win. And it's just a huge positive spin, basically. Rather than saying, oh, my struggles are this, my struggles are that, we concentrate on, right, what's worked really well in your business and how can we 10x that to get you to that next level?
Yeah. No, I mean I think that's a super interesting point. And within that, what would you say that like you do on a day-to-day basis that allows you to do that? Because one of the things that my friend, a really good friend of mine, said, and it's something that really stuck with me, is he was like, your true friends and your true network are the people who celebrate you when you win. So the people who are actually truly happy for you when you do something good are the ones who are your true friends. And the ones who are kind of around you and in and around you, but when you start winning, are actually kind of like maybe a bit jealous or maybe have certain like slight backhanded comments or negatives, are not actually the ones who are your true friends and should be in your kind of inner
Yeah,
circle and network.
yeah, yeah. I think you're exactly right, and I'm very lucky. I don't know about you. I've the kind of five or six mates that I went to school with. We were all very entrepreneur minded, let's say, and not very good academically at school. Every single one of my those type five guys, no one has got a 9 to 5 job, and we all failed school. everyone has gone into running their own businesses. And I think we were probably pushed that way because we weren't academically strong. But the outcome of that
Yeah.
is extraordinary. All my friends are absolutely killing it. Everybody's very successful in their own right. And I
Mhm.
think that started very early days when we were out fishing on boats and selling the mackerel to pubs rather than revising for our exams. So the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial
I mean,
streak started fairly young, to be honest.
no, I mean that's definitely. I'd like to get into that. I mean, that's definitely interesting. I mean, I don't think I'm very fortunate in that like my two best friends from school work with me now. So one of them is my videographer and editor, does an amazing job. I wouldn't be able to do half of what I do Instagram wise without him.
Yeah,
And then one of them is my operations manager and has probably been one of the biggest blessings in my business because I don't get calls from guests as much anymore because he deals with a lot of that and he deals with a lot of the guest maintenance and
yeah,
he's killing it on getting us direct bookings and that kind of stuff as well. So I think I'm very fortunate in that. I think um, for me, for us, the three of us, it was a slightly different story. So Ollie, who's my videographer, editor, best friend, is he was fairly academic, but also he worked very hard. Like he had a very much like a fear of failing school, so he just worked super super hard. Whereas I was slightly type B or whatever it is, type A or type B. I was the one more so, especially at GCSEs, who kind of my thing was like gaming. So I basically like when Fortnite came out, which was during my GCSEs, I think I just was grinding the shit out of that. Like I was like max level, max tier, everything, which you can say is not productive, right? But for the type of person I am, for
yeah.
me, it's like if I had an obsession with something, I wanted to be the very best at the thing I had an obsession with. And for me, through like when I was a younger child, that was like rugby and video games. So I wanted to be a professional rugby player and I wanted to be top tier elite rugby player. And it was video games because I love video games. So like Fortnite, FIFA, like I was like a top 5% player in the world at like FIFA
No
or
way.
whatever in like the elite like divisions. Because I just like there were years where I played like thousands of games of FIFA because
Learned
I
something new
just love
about you this
playing it.
morning.
Yeah, and you know,
And
it
we
may
might have been
not
on
be the
holiday
most
together.
yeah, it may not be the most productive thing in that sense, but what it was in a way is like video games does have benefit. Like it creates competitive drive. You're constantly like building, like you're leveling things up, like you're working towards a building a greater goal. So like in that sense, like okay, yeah, I was spending time playing video games, not revising for my exams, but there were probably soft skills of like resilience, competitiveness, drive to keep doing something and just be obsessed with it, even if it wasn't going my way, which probably helped me be a bit to where I am today. And that's an
Absolutely.
innate thing.
Yeah.
Even if, like, yeah, revising for. But then for me, once I did my A levels, I did quite well at my A levels because I basically went down, I narrowed it down from doing like GCSEs. I couldn't give a fuck about English, maths, science, whatever. All bored the hell out of me. But then I got to pick three subjects that I really liked at A level, and then I suddenly went from like a mid tier student to like straight A's. And it's like that obsession within that of like, again, that obsession of like, I want to be the very best at this because I actually enjoy it, which is a really,
Do you
really
enjoy the
interesting kind of
journey
phenomenon
of
for me.
obsessing about it, or do you just enjoy the results at the end?
No, I think I enjoyed the journey. I think I enjoy the journey. Like, I think there's two things. I enjoy the competitive nature of it. So I've always been highly, highly competitive. So I want to be the very best or extract the very best I can out of myself. Um, and then also um, the journey of it and the making progress, I think brings me a lot of purpose and fulfillment, which I think
Okay.
is a super important thing.
Yeah.
Um, but when you were in school then and you were like, how did you get into like doing entrepreneurial stuff then if you were literally fishing mackerel and selling it to like pubs at like whatever age you were at that time?
I don't really know how I got into it. It's just like, when you find a little thing that sparks a fire inside you and you enjoy doing it. So you said you
Hmm.
obsess over like being the best at it, the very best. You want to achieve the very best, and you become obsessed by that kind of perfection of the results or whatever. So I obsess over spending all of my time doing stuff that I absolutely love.
Mhm.
I'm a full believer that life's short and you should enjoy every single day if you can. So if I find something that I enjoy doing, I will fixate on it just because of that enjoyment factor, and not necessarily it didn't
Yeah.
get me huge results. So an example, my friend and I, we were probably 14, 15 at the time, 16 maybe, and we started seeing people sell stuff on FaceBay. So we were collecting old tellies off FaceBay for free. We built a shed in the garden and we were storing these tellies and trying to sell them for like £5 or £10. I mean, we absolutely loved that journey of thinking that we were businessmen. The results weren't
Yeah.
there. Obviously, we were selling tellies for £5, but the journey of like creating something and thinking on your feet and trying to be entrepreneurial was really exciting. And then
Yeah.
we started spending a lot of time offshore. So, I mean, I don't know if you can see, but that is an island, that bit of land in the background. We're so close to the sea. And I spent my
Yeah.
whole life kind of almost coast side. We spent a lot of time on
Mhm.
boats. We've all had boats, me and my friends. And then we started catching mackerel out at sea. And we were like, well, we've got like 30 mackerel each. What are we going to do with them? We're not going to go home and eat mackerel for 2 weeks. So we went to all the local pubs. We used to line all the mackerel up in trays, strap them to the back of our mopeds, and drive around all the pubs selling mackerel to selling mackerel
That's
for a
brilliant.
pound of fish. So I mean,
Yeah.
the results again was probably 30 quid each, but that would pay for all of that fishing trip and the enjoyment. So actually, it wasn't costing us anything. And with the main important thing, we were enjoying so much of our time as kids that actually the results didn't really matter. It was the journey that we were enjoying, not the results. And I think that
Yeah.
still, to be honest, is how I run business today. So I could buy properties on my own and do the journey on my own, but I don't really want to. I've done that before. It does. I don't get any fulfillment out of that or any purpose out of it. I enjoy taking someone else that wants to get into property that probably wouldn't do it if they were on their own, and using like collaboration to see both of us succeed and win out of it. I get so much more enjoyment out of that. And I don't need to do that.
Mm.
I just prefer that whole journey with people.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an amazing point. Like, I think the one of the realizations that I've made fairly recently, or not realization, but like really clicked for me personally, was that um, like when I say I want to be the very best, but I don't actually, I mean it in the journey and how I get there, not the results. Because I think once you, every point of like, whenever as a human being you have this arbitrary goal and you hit that goal, you kind of slump afterwards. um and like so many stories of like these successful people. I think like Tyson Fury is an example that everyone knows, whether you like him or don't like him doesn't really matter, of like the story of going from, you know, where he was being like rags to riches, winning the heavyweight title, and then going back to rags with drinking, gambling, drug issues, because his story of like, I got everything I'd ever dreamed of or wanted and set my goal on, and as soon as I got that, I didn't know where I was going anymore. And it's like he wanted to be the very best along the journey and he enjoyed the journey so much, but then as soon as he reached that actual arbitrary goal that he'd set for himself, he didn't know where to go anymore. And I think it's more constantly, like you say, of actually taking the steps that you do and enjoying the journey along the way. And that, one of the things that I have is I don't really have a big goal. Like for me, there is no like, I have to have 10 million, 20 million, 100. I want to exit my company for this or do this or whatever. It's just like, I just want to keep building and keep going. And I'll just see where it takes me.
Mhm.
And I think that brings me so much fulfillment and enjoyment, that is why I happily work 12 hours a day, because I just like, it just brings me fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, like you say, is like find what kind of makes you tick and what ticks those boxes for you. And like, you know, it's the collaboration, etc. Um, who would you say along that journey then, with like you said, all your five friends who you were closest with in school are now entrepreneurs? Who would you say was really influential in that kind of those early stages of turning you into your entrepreneur? And what was your first venture?
My first venture was, well, I mean, I can tell you a bit of my backstory. So after school, I didn't go to university. I couldn't go to university because I didn't have any UCAS points. And equally, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in this world. I didn't really have like a really clear direction. What I knew about myself was I absolutely love being at sea. So I went to a maritime college and I spent 6 months getting my qualifications to go and be able to work on those big like super yachts that are owned by Russian billionaires, right? But I didn't. There's no easy way into that industry. You have to graft and you have to find your own way. So I literally flew to the south of France with 20 CVs in my hand and walked up and down the pontoon handing CVs out until I got a job. But it wasn't. There wasn't someone kind of super influential. I mean, my dad and my stepmom have both ran their own businesses for years and years and years. So I've kind of always seen them as idols in the space. But their way of running businesses is very different to mine. They were very busy, hands-on, active income, 6 days a week. If it had to be 7 days a week, then it was. They had very good results out of it. But my kind of why and my inspiration is to get time back and to have some freedom rather than having loads of results, but selling your soul for it. So yes, I had influential people as in family that owned businesses, but it wasn't someone that I like really idolized that I could see that had unlocked this passive income. It wasn't much later in my journey until I realized about passive income. And then I was like, boom, that is what I've been searching for all of these years. I've tried various ventures. I set up an electric car company with a friend of mine. That was great. I mean, we enjoyed it, but it wasn't solving the why I'm in business. It wasn't solving that freedom, that time that I actually realized that I craved so much. Um, yeah, and then I'd done 3 property flips before that, and then I realized passive income, I can do that in property, and I absolutely love property. That is my passion. So how do I unlock that passive income? And as soon as I'd worked that out, it changed the game massively for me. I had a plan, I had a focus. I could build a business plan over 2, 3, 5 years, and I could actually see the kind of goal there was to get my freedom, and I could see a path to get there as well.
See, I think that's super interesting because I think we have very contrasting ideas on that.
Mm.
Because I would say that, like, and maybe it's terminology, right? But you say, like, oh, working 7 days a week and selling their soul. But, like, and for me anyway, like, I probably work 7 days a week and I'm very much in, like, cash flowing active income. But, like, for me, I love that. Like, I genuinely just love it. So I don't feel like I'm selling my soul because it's like that makes me happy and that's okay. Like, whereas like for you, if it's like you want that time and that freedom, that's also okay and that makes you happy and that's fine. Um,
100%. I totally agree. We're not contrasting ideas, by the way. What we are contrasting is what what you want out of those 6 days a week. So
yeah,
I have zero intention of working 6 days a week ever in my life. I never ever want to work 6 days a week. Even if the results are amazing, I'd rather take results that make me happy and I have complete time freedom than work twice as much and get a slightly better result. And I think we're just wired differently. I think for you, like what you're striving for, you are absolutely perfect. You're bang on in what you're doing. But for me, if I did that, if I worked 6 days a week to try and get to my goal, I would resent what I'm trying to do because I've sold those 6 days to try and get the result. So I'm working a
yeah.
lot now, like between projects, I'm working a lot of hours now. But my goal is to not do any of those days working and just unlock that passive income.
Okay, and I'm going to question you here. So when you have that passive income, what does that actually mean to you?
The choice to work or the choice not to work, the choice to travel or not travel. I think for me it's slightly different because I've got a child. I've got a daughter who's 7. So it's if I'm saying, oh, I want loads of time freedom, and you're quite right, like to do what with? Why do you need so much time? But I grew up with my mum. I mean, she's been a nurse for 40 years and has worked 5 days a week for her whole career, has done very limited traveling, doesn't have a lot of time because she's tied to a 9 to 5. My dad's run his own business and has worked probably 6 days a week for the last God knows how many years. And yeah, I mean, it's different for me because I've seen that. I've been the child in that situation, and I don't want my little girl to be the child in our situation. And I do the school run twice a day. So I've been this morning already, back for a call with you, and then I'll do it again at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I absolutely love doing that, I clock off at 3 o'clock. I really enjoy spending as much time as I can with my little girl. So my time freedom is kind of driven for my little one not to be in a situation that I was, where I had really, really busy parents all the time.
No, I mean, I think that's super important, and it's also um, it's a prioritization shift. Like for me, obviously, I'm 22 years old and I have no responsibilities. I don't have a child. I don't have any of that. And for me, that could massively change when I move up to be the fact that I do have a kid. And I think that shifts your whole perspective on those kind of things. Um, so I want to just like build, work, 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 do all that I can now, because the actions that I take now, besides my girlfriend, bless her, love her, but like don't doesn't really have an impact on anybody else because I've got no responsibilities, I've got nothing else.
Yeah,
Whereas as you're talking about, like you've got something bigger than yourself now to think about and to work towards and do,
yeah,
and that's a super important motivator or decision factor as to why our goals right now are slightly different. But I can definitely see myself in the future making that shift.
yeah,
But for me, either way I see it is like I already have a lot of time freedom. Like I wake up, I roll out of bed, and I just go sit at my desk. And you know, most people will have to wake up, go to the office, do this, do that. I say time freedom. I'm going to Thailand for a month in 2 weeks' time, and then I'm doing like another 3 weeks in Bali and Thailand in October, and then I'm going skiing for a month in January. So like, I wouldn't exactly say that like I'm very location bound and I'm very free compared to like that things, but it's like my version of freedom is probably different of that of what you want.
yeah, of
Um,
course.
and the reason I asked that question was because I think it's always good to understand what is it, what is the reason behind what you're doing, because it's like a lot of people say they want passive income or they say they want time freedom and location freedom, but then once you get that, what are you actually going to do with it? What does it mean to you? And that's what I want to understand behind as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably the first bit of advice I would give anyone that is considering going into business and leaving their 9 to 5 is you have to really, really focus and unlock the why. And everybody says, "Oh, why are you in property?" And it's like, okay, yeah, like you said, I want time freedom. Okay, why? Because my parents have worked loads and I don't want to work loads. Okay, why? Well, I've got a daughter and I want her to enjoy life and have the choice to travel and the choice not to work. Okay, why? Oh, because yeah, and you know what I mean? You have to dig really, really, really deep to realize what you actually want out of this venture. And then you can work backwards and build steps to put in place a strategy or a business plan that will get you directly to your why rather than starting a business and realizing that you're getting pulled over here, not enjoying it, and then having to change the plan to try and redirect yourself towards your why. If you start with it first and work backwards, you're going to find the journey a lot smoother.
No, I think that's amazing advice. And someone who I had on an episode, if you haven't watched it, go watch it, is with Corey. And he
Mhm.
said this exact same thing. He was like, okay, because a lot of people say they're like, I want passive income and I want to have loads of money. Okay, why? So what is your deeper reason behind that? And you keep digging and digging and digging, because what a lot of people then realize is like the reasons that they are doing it for is not actually what they initially thought. Because
100%. Yeah.
as you said, you've got to build backwards. The last thing that you want to do is start something and then absolutely resent it. Because I think passive income and financial freedom, location freedom, time freedom, they're all big buzzwords that people use. But it's like, what does that actually, what do you gain from it? And what is the reason that you would do that for? And it takes a lot of digging and kind of soul searching to really actually figure that out to what makes you tick in the first place. Because people, I think people, and this is my opinion because I think people underestimate how selfish they are and overestimate how giving they are. So I think a lot of people say, oh, well, I want to do it for my mum or I want to do it for my family or whatever. But it's like, you know, let's say, but why? Like, is it actually that you want to do it for your mum and that you're going to give her all of these things? It might be, but there is a deeper reason behind that, because like that is not the only thing which is driving you to make this decision. Um, and I speak to a lot of people who want to get into, Airbnb for me, obviously, is the space that I operate in. And it's like, the decisions that you make when you leave your 9 to 5 or when you start being an entrepreneur or when you invest in yourself or whatever, they're not rational decisions. They're not, well, if I do X, Y, Z, I'm going to make this much money and that's really going to help me. It's actually, I'm so sick of this, or I so want to make this change, or I've seen this so much that that's why I'm doing it. It's never a rational decision.
No.
And like, it might not have been for you either. But as we said, what was the first venture that you did? It was an electric car business.
Yeah, so I left the yacht that I was working on when I was 21. I came back. I was working as a boat captain for a few years, and then when I got to about 27, my friend and I started an electric car company. Now that was to- totally, to be honest, out of the blue. I've never really had a huge interest in electric cars, sustainability. Like I love sustainability, but it wasn't like a driving factor in my life or anything like that. I just knew that I'd been working for other people up until this point, and all my friends around me were business owners. So I was like, right, I need to own a business. That's how I get all this freedom and loads more income and everything. So we started a electric car company. We were buying normal secondhand stock, and we had a forecourt full of electric cars. Um, and it was great when it was great, and when it was bad, it was eye-wateringly bad. That industry is so turbulent. The day is pretty much written by how Elon Musk wakes up in the morning, um, and the prices are all over the place. So we were kind of struggling. We were either up here or we were down here. We found no passive income out of it. We found no steady income out of it. And actually, like I said, I mean, we switched the model up slightly because we turned into bespoke car sources. So people would come to us and they would say, right, I've got 40 grand. I want a blue Tesla with less than 10,000 miles and I need it within 3 weeks. And we would say, yeah, cool, no worries. They would pay us up front. We would go and source that car, prep it, and then deliver it. It was like a one-on-one hand-holding experience on how to transition into having an electric car. But like we were talking about a second ago, we were 2.5 years in and we were like, this hasn't solved why we wanted to get into business. Like, this is not, we are no closer now to our why than we were 2.5 years ago. So we started like backpedaling. We were like, right, how do we build this business model so that we can create passive income out of this? And by that point, it was a little bit too late, to be honest. We'd gone through four of Elon's price crashes, and we were probably after one more crash, we were going to be out of the game anyway. So that was the point where we were like, right, we're going to do business so differently, but we need to end this and we need to start again doing something we're super passionate about. My friend went into business coaching, so he's my business coach, and I went back into property. I'd already done property before, I'd done 3 flips, but it was kind of like a hobby on the sideline. Now I had a bit of like focus, determination, and a plan. Like I knew how to start a business from step one rather than starting it at step four. Then I went into property full time and I was like, right, boom, full focus, kind of full resilience, one step at a time, and kind of, yeah, plan out the journey before you
So,
start it, basically.
yeah, no, I think that's super interesting. So, going back a little bit, in terms of your electric car business when you first started, what was the initial model and then what did it transition to?
So the initial model was a typical car forecourt selling secondhand cars, except we would only deal in full electric. We did no hybrids. It was kind of full electric cars, and we called ourselves Forecourt E. So we were E for electric. We would only do that. And our kind of, we thought we were niche because we were a secondhand car business that were only selling electric cars. But because of 2030, and they said, right, we're going to stop building petrol and diesel cars. The drive to get an electric car was huge. So we were like, oh, we're going to be one of the first in the game. But we started that business with £60,000. So we didn't start with a lot of stock. I mean, you look at the price of an electric car, you can't buy many electric cars for £60,000. And we were using our own money. So that was our model. It was like chuck as much money in as we can, buy as many cars as we can, and we'll just sell like a traditional secondhand car market. And then after a year and a half, we realized that we were doing nothing different in this space. There are lots of secondhand car companies selling electric stock. So we were like, right, how do we mix this up? How do we use other people's money, which is obviously a huge buzzword in property as well. But we were using other people's money to make money in the car business. So we would charge clients up front when we switched the model over to the sourcing. We were charging people up front for their electric car that they would have delivered in 3 or 4 weeks by us. So we didn't have to have any cash. to go and buy the stock. They were already tied into buying it. So they would say, we want a blue one with yellow wheels and whatever they wanted. The spec was drawn out, contracted. They paid us. So everything, every car that we bought now, we already had a customer waiting for. So our stock holding time was 0 days because we bought a car, prepped it, and it was gone. It was delivered, already paid for. So switching that model up was absolutely incredible. Like we did 1.5 million in our second year. So it worked. The
Okay.
model was fantastic, but again, it
Yeah.
wasn't solving anything for us. Like the money was good when it was good. When it was bad, it was bad. There was nothing in between, but it didn't solve any why for us. We were in business, sorry, for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
And
No, I
yeah,
mean, I think that's super, super interesting because initially, I think you've made a mistake that a lot of people do when starting your first business anyway. And again, learning from my own is that a products-based business is incredibly hard to start for any entrepreneur to begin with because, like you said, if you started that company with 60 grand, that's what, two secondhand Teslas, and the car market on electric cars, like they sink quickly. So if your stock holding time, as you said, is high, you're probably losing value on that car very, very quickly.
100%. Yeah,
And if you had have gone out and raised like 1 million, £2 million and bought a load of stock and been able to sell it, it might have been a business model that worked. But I think a lot of people say like, if you go into like ecom, Amazon
yeah,
FBA or whatever, and Amazon FBA was my first business, and then I also worked at Amazon as well as a project manager. But like, your stock holding time is so key, and also you constantly are reinvesting back in your inventory, so it makes it incredibly hard for it to actually cash flow, which is the biggest problem that people need to solve when starting their first business, is actually having cash flow that they can live off in the first place. And like you said, if you make 3K on let's say on a deal, I don't know what the figures are in terms of when you sell and buy a secondhand car, but if you made £5,000 or whatever, immediately you've got to reinvest that 5K that you've made profit to actually keep growing your business. So it's a very big never-ending cycle,
it is
and it makes it a
100%.
lot harder for you to actually grow and scale unless that's where you get these massive companies that go mega. They get private equity and they get massive finance and funding to basically run at a loss for years to grow your business. But most people don't have that opportunity, and that's why I'm so big on the Airbnb and the cash flow. Is like you can cash flow so well from it that it means that you're not constantly investing in your stock and your product. But that's why I think when you clearly it started working is when you made that switch to actually more of a service-based business initially, where you weren't holding any stock. So how
Yeah.
did that idea come about, and how did you make that switch?
I think it came accidentally, to be honest, but I mean, it was right place, right time. So we were advertising, say, a blue Tesla for sale, and someone would come to us and they would say, "Oh, have you got that bit in red?" And initially we were like, "Oh no, we don't. We've got this stock. Here's our stock list. Basically, this is all we've got." But we found that more and more. So people, after we'd been in business a year and a half, we'd won a couple of awards. The kind of credibility in the space is heightened massively. So people, they'd come and say, "Oh, can you guys find me a blue one?" And initially we were like, "No, this is our stock." And then we were like, "Actually, yeah, we can, because yeah, that's a customer waiting for a car. So yeah, we can." And we started doing that, and we found that a lot more. And we were kind of only talking about that in the car space. We were like, "Yeah, we source cars for people," and that kind of took off. So we were like, "Right, we're going to rebrand, restructure, use other people's money, prepaid only." But again, rebranding a business after you've been doing it 12 months is not a wise idea. Like, we definitely didn't have a concrete plan when we started. And if I went
Right.
back into that game now, I would run that company so different, and we would hit the ground running on day one with little to
Yeah.
no cash needed up front. But it's one of
Yeah.
those, like, you don't know unless you know, and you live and learn. Nobody's born with all the answers, and you have to go through that
Yeah.
journey. I enjoyed the journey, but yeah, my gosh, did we learn some things, the steep learning curve for starting your own business. But it comes back to
Yeah.
like network, right? Like, I'm now surrounded by hundreds of business owners that are all absolutely killing it. And that's where I now get my advice, where I look up to. So I think that network, if we had that network when we started that car business, we would have been sat down and given a royal talking to, because we had no plan. It was kind of make it up as you
Yeah.
go along. If this bit works, then we'll do more of that. And if that bit doesn't work, we'll close that bit. And it was all a bit like fly of the pants. But
Right.
yeah, that has changed now. Just unlocking that like business mentorship and an incredible network.
But you said that essentially you did what 1.2 million in your second year of trading,
Yeah, we turned over just shy of 2 million. Yeah.
and then what's the kind of profit figures on that? So how was that working numbers wise?
So we, gosh, um, I can't remember. We almost. I mean, we made a profit in our second and third year, but we almost broke even on year two. You turn over, I can't remember what it was, nearly 2 million. Let's say 1.7 million. You got to remember, turnover is
Yeah,
vanity, profit is
yeah,
sanity. So we tell people like, yeah, we made nearly 2 million that year, but it's turnover. And when you're selling high ticket items like Teslas for 40, 50 grand, it's actually quite
yeah.
easy to bump yourself up to that
That's not
million,
that
two
many
million mark.
Teslas.
No, it's not. And when you're making 3, 4 grand a car, sometimes we're making a lot less than that. But if you made 3 grand a car on average, you've got to take all your costs out of that. There was me and my business partner to pay all the business expenses, etc., etc. And we weren't doing 10, 15, 20 cars a month. We were doing 4 or 5 cars a month. So
Yeah,
it definitely wasn't a high earner. And like I said, it was little too late. By the time we got to that last price crash, we were like, well, we're going to be out of this game anyway in 6 months if we carry on. So why don't we get out while we can and refocus on a business plan that we know and enjoy doing. So for me, it was a huge property passion. And yeah, I learned a lot and restructured the whole way my property business was going to work. So
yeah,
I don't regret a thing about that business. It's just, yeah, live and learn. Yeah. I knew I was going to go back into property full time. What I didn't want to do is go into property like I'd gone into the car business with kind of a rough plan, but no real vision and steps. So I went and got educated first, obviously joined the academy, which is where I met you. And the properties that have followed getting educated are so much, well, so more lucrative, so more aligned with my why. Like everything about them is, yeah, it's just hitting all of those like big bangs that I wanted to get out of property that I hadn't got before. Um, so the first one I did after the academy unlocked passive income for 5 years. It was an all money out deal because I'd learned about refinancing. I think I left 15 grand in that deal and earned it back in 10 months. So that's something I didn't even know I could achieve within property before I got
yeah.
educated. And then everything after that's been, yeah, it's been fantastic. So I can't fault that. And I would strongly suggest anyone, whatever industry you're going into, get educated before you
Yeah.
get in.
No, I completely agree. I think at the end of the day, what you pay for is you pay to take away some of the mistakes and learnings that you do otherwise. And I think people have such a fear of
Yeah.
investing in themselves that they would rather do it on their own. But then you end up making more mistakes, and it costs you more money long term in one, lost income, and two, mistakes than if you just had someone in your corner who says like, do this, don't do this. I'd advise against that. Um, and like that's one of the
Yeah.
things that I do with the people we work with on the Airbnb side of things. It's like I'm all, like they send me deals and stuff like that. I'm like, I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole. But you know, I'm sure as you know, you hear stories of people all the time who've taken on deals and lost money. Whereas like if you just have someone who
Yeah.
can sit in your corner and say like, that one, there's this, and this reason that you haven't even thought of, which actually why that stinks, and you shouldn't go near it. And the same, you could
Yeah.
do the exact same for like flips and BRRs for people. And there's so much within that, but people are so scared that it kind of counteracts that a little bit. What would you say? Like
Yeah.
you've talked about one there, almost about getting educated. What would you say that other key learnings that you took from the car business that you then implemented into the property business to make it far more successful?
Using other people's money. So I would love to say that I've won the lottery and I've got millions of pounds sat in the bank. I don't. So actually, property is probably just as hard getting into it, especially when you only want to do flips and BRRs. Right, they are my two strategies that I'm absolutely dead focused on, laser focused on BRRs and flips. But you can't buy that many with your own money unless you have a seriously healthy bank account. So the minute you unlock in your mindset rather than anything else that using other people's money is a good idea rather than, oh, I don't want to borrow money because then I'll owe loads of people money. Well, it's the same as having a mortgage. You owe the mortgage company 200 grand, but that doesn't bother you. So why should it bother you borrowing 200 grand from your local butcher and paying him 10% rather than someone else? As soon as you unlock that kind of mindset of this is how you scale up now, is borrowing other people's money, there's no stopping you. I mean, traditionally, until I got educated, I was doing a property probably once every
Right.
2 years. And since being educated, I mean, I'll do three
Yeah.
this year. So it's kind of like a complete switch in mindset. I'm focused now on unlocking cash and working with investors, and that's
Yeah.
scaled up my business massively. But you have to kind of get over that fear of borrowing money. And I say to people, like, when you're coming back to the education thing, I mean, I've spent probably 15 grand plus on education, and it doesn't bother me
Yeah.
at all. It's probably the best money I've ever spent, to be
Well,
honest.
you so easily, like, if you spend 5 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand, you make that money back so quickly if you just implement the right things. Like, and that's why it's the highest ROI investment you can ever make is yourself, because actually you make that money back so quickly if you just take the right steps and actually do
Yeah,
what is basically being taught to you. Um, but I think,
yeah,
like, you know, what you can say in there is like you basically 6x what you were doing previously this year alone. And then probably next year, you'll probably do at least 5 or 10, you know, so then you
yeah,
will have 10,
yeah,
20x or whatever at that point, what you were initially doing,
yeah,
all from just like some simple bits of knowledge, like of just, okay, leverage, finance, that kind of stuff. And have you read Rich Dad Poor
yeah.
Dad?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my dad gave me that book when I was probably
Yeah,
16, 17. I
exactly.
love it.
And I think that was one of the things that got me interested in property, probably like a load of people, is like the difference, like you're saying, between good debt and bad debt. Um, and it's like having debt is okay, but having debt because you bought yourself, um, you know, a Louis Vuitton bag or whatever else it is, compared to having debt
Yeah,
because you're buying things that are going to cash flow you, whether it's businesses, assets. You know, we've taken on debt to scale our business. Like we've taken out private business loans, etc., to scale our business. And it's been fine because we've cash flow from it and we make it work. So that for us is good debt because we're actually
yeah,
making a higher return
yeah.
than what the interest is we're paying.
Then
But as
what it's
soon as
costing
you
you.
do it the other way around, as
Yeah,
soon as you take on debt where what is costing you is more than what you're actually getting out of it, that's where the problem is. And I think that's where you need to make that distinction. And I think that's why so many people are like, oh, don't get into debt, don't do this, do that, don't do that. But it's like, okay, but you actually need to look at the return on the leverage of the money you're taking on. Now, don't get me wrong,
hmm,
you can be very stupid with it because I have. Like, I think maybe once like 18, 19, um, I got into crypto and I ended up taking out a loan to basically buy even more crypto. And I think I like 18. No, okay. Yeah, no, but like it was a great learning for me. And
I hope there's a happy
no,
ending to
there
this
is not a
story.
happy ending to this story. So I took out maybe about a £5,000 loan on top of the money that I already had.
Okay.
Um, and I got into crypto in about 2019, 2020. And I initially bought some Bitcoin and stuff when it was about $19,000. And in that kind of period, it went up to about 70,000. Um, so at like 18, 19 years old, I probably had about 25 to 30,000 pounds of just like money that had been kind of grown in crypto and stuff like that. So I'd made a decent amount of money, but obviously hadn't sold anything. Um, then what happened is I had my money in a brokerage, like a company that basically collapsed. So that whole maybe yeah, I must have been 19 at the time. Every cent of my value, net worth, and money that I had basically disappeared
No way.
overnight. Um, and like
Do you think they genuinely went bankrupt, or do you think you were part of like a bigger
no,
scam model and they were always
well, it was
planning to close it?
FTX. It's like one of the biggest um, things
Right.
known, like in terms of like the crypto world and something that collapsed. So like um, it's not like it was a scam because they were doing basically illegal stuff, but in the sense of um, like they didn't just take my money and run away with it. Like the whole brokerage collapsed. It was like a multi-billion-dollar company anyway. But that was a great learning for me because what I realized out of that is that I, although I had, you know, and I still do like crypto investing. It's not put me off. So that was one a great learning of like, okay, you get back up from it again. Because if you can manage to lose every single penny you have at, you know, let's call it £30,000 at 19 years old, if you can get back up from that again, that takes a bit of resilience. Um, but the second
100%.
thing from it
Yeah.
was like I didn't actually have any skills. Like all the skills that I knew was like, okay, I knew the market, I knew what was going on, but I didn't have any skills of like, okay, but when crypto's not doing so well, I wasn't really a trader. I was more like a investing in it long term to look at this and see where things would play out. So I didn't actually have any skills that would make me any money, and that was the thing that I realized. Like, I'm not actually, I don't have a business here. I'm just putting money away, and I'm not creating any income from it. Um, so even though it was an expensive as fuck mistake to learn, it was really, really good because I realized like, okay, if I do this again, I need to create a cash flowing business that's going to make me money. And once I do that, do the service, sell the product, whatever, I get to keep that money at the end of the day. And there's no risk of it like
Yeah.
just disappearing or whatever. So it was a great, like, it was a great, harsh but learning curve in that for me. Um, that's
Yeah, well, mate, to be honest, just quickly on that, I take my hat off to you for coming back from that, because that would have sank a lot of 19-year-olds,
probably.
and they would have been like, right, I'm not touching business again. I'm not doing investing again. Like, that would have switched a lot of people off. So, yeah, kudos to you for having the balls to jump
But
back
I
at
think
it. So,
like my saying has always been, I don't even know how long, probably since I was like 17, 18, was that like I was either going to be rich or I was going to go broke trying. Like that was my saying. So it was just like I will lose all my money three times over and over and over until the time where like you hit it. And that's what a lot of people say is like, yeah, I had three companies that failed and I did this and this and this, and then I finally had the one that hit it and I ended up making the money or whatever. So that's how I saw it. I was just like, right, fine, we just gotta go again. And yeah, it was like, did I cry?
yeah,
Did I shed a tear? Was it fucking shit? Absolutely. Would I still rather have that money now? Yeah, but that's not how things played out.
yeah,
In the long run.
yeah. It's a small part of your
Exactly.
journey,
And
mate.
in
And you see, like Grant Cardone talking about this. They say, like, prepare to fail. Your first business is not going to be the one that you keep. Your fifth business is going to be the one that, like, that you keep and makes you money from. So,
yeah,
yeah, go in with everything eyes wide
exactly.
open. Yeah,
And like you said with the car business, some of the skills you learnt there in terms of the setting up, the sourcing of cars, that's all transferable into a lot of what you do now with property sourcing, BRRs, finding good deals, all that kind of stuff. It's transferable skills at the end of the day that you've picked up along that way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we were working with fairly wealthy people that have got. I mean, we weren't doing loans and stuff, so we were taking 40, 50 grand cash from people. So we were kind of working with wealthy. I mean, they weren't investors because they're buying stock from us, but wealthy people. And yeah, having that responsibility is, yeah, it's pretty daunting, but you either do it or you don't, and you learn along the way, right? Nobody can teach you those things. It's just having experience. And like, I think that's what makes you a great mentor. Like, you've been there, you've done that. So now your students are learning through your mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've played.
So if you wouldn't have made those mistakes, how do you teach people? Like,
No, definitely. Like, I think there's plenty of mistakes that I've made, and I'm sure the same for you, but you learn from that. And like, how did
yeah,
you, so like, you got educated and you kind of went into the property side of things, but you knew it was your passion. I want to dig into that a little bit more because I know you've talked about passive income and your why and stuff like that, but a lot of people know that they want to get to X goal. They've got this goal of financial freedom, time freedom, making money through business, whatever it is. But they don't actually know what vehicle to use to get there. And then even when you get into property, there's about 20 different vehicles and strategies you can use within that. So how did you figure that out for yourself?
by having a mentor. So sit down and make a plan and do the whole why and everything like that. But actually, for me, I want to focus on two strategies: flips and BRRs. Now, BRRs is the best strategy in the world. I'm convinced by it because you've got a pot of cash. You can stick it into a property, renovate it, pull the same cash pot back out, and maintain it on your portfolio with all your cash back. But what that's called is an all money out deal, and they are like unicorns. I thought I had one last year that I bought. I ended up leaving 15, 20 grand in it, so it was still a
Yeah.
very good deal. But what I do is I would love to focus just on BRRs, but actually the reality is you're going to be tying 20, 30 grand up per house at the end of it. So what I do is I run that strategy alongside property flips. So as long as I can buy one and keep it, and then buy one and sell it, the profits that you make from selling houses covers the money that you've left in building your portfolio. So then there's kind of no end to this cycle, right? It's you bought a house, renovated it, kept it, but you've spent 20 grand out your cash pot, but you've just sold that one in the same year that's made you 30, 40 grand profit. So you're net zero, but you've gained a property. And yes, it's a slow way of doing it like that. So that's why I started unlocking investor cash, and then you can do multiple deals at the same time.
I mean, I think I would debate you on if it's the best strategy, but we're not here to sit. We're not here to sit here and say like, you know, what's better. I mean, I think.
I'll tell you what, it's the best strategy for me.
Yeah, exactly. And but that's again. So how did you know that? Is almost my question, because I think that I would probably sit there, like you do a lot of the work on your properties. I know this. You do a lot of work on properties. You do this and that. I think I would probably throw myself off a cliff. Like, I'm not built for that. I constantly want things to be adapting, changing, stuff like that. And the physical labor of it is, I'm a little princess who likes to sit and, you know, if I'm feeling extra brave, I'll stand behind my desk. So, you know, that's it's a different thing. So, but how did you know that?
Mate, you'd hate it in my office, mate.
No, I mean, how did
I know?
Yeah.
I don't know how I knew that strategy was the one for me. I guess I've always owned houses from when I was 21. So the whole kind of rent to rent strategy, I've never even like looked at it, considered it. I probably should have done. You will argue that I probably should have done. And yes, I probably still should now, to be honest, to unlock even more cash flow. But I think when I came into property, I had some money. I'd sold my house 2 months before I joined the academy. I had 130 grand sat in my bank doing nothing. So and when you start this out, people are like, oh, rent to rent's like a beginner strategy. So's deal sourcing. Obviously it's not for you because you've scaled it into an absolute monster. But if you don't have any cash or you've got limited funds, you start by deal sourcing or doing rent to rent. That's the generic path. I'm not saying everybody has to do it. I'm not saying it's the right way to do it, but that's the generic path that you're kind of led down. It's like, okay, well, you've got no cash, you want to get into property, you need to do deal sourcing, earn 3 grand a time, and then you can put it into rent to rents and you start building up like that. I had always owned property and I had a good chunk of equity sat around in my bank not doing anything. So that was the kind of natural path for me to go down BRR. I wanted to own stuff and I wanted to keep stuff rather than selling it. So BRR just jumped out at me. And then my first BRR, like I said, it tied in 15, 20 grand. So in my head, I was like, okay, so if I scale this to multiple projects, that cash pot is eventually going to run out. So the 2 things I need to do is unlock more cash, so investor cash, and also flip properties to cover the money that I'm leaving in from retaining stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm not only ever going to do BRRs and flips, but at the time, that was a natural strategy for me, and it ticked all my boxes and got me closer to my why by keeping the portfolio, unlocking passive income through social housing. So yeah, it's definitely my focus now. It might not be forever. I want to get into commercial. I want to get into land developments. You've got to bend my arm for rent to rent, but I'm sure you can do it.
I think it depends on what you want, right? Like, I'm trying to build a cash flowing monster is what I want. So every business that I do, and I'm even diverting slightly from the rent to rent model, because for me, I'm like, that's even too cash intensive. I'm going even to like service based, so management. You know, I don't really do deal sourcing because I have my qualms with it, but that's another topic for another day. And like, that's like, I'm trying to offer those services and scale it even more, because I'm like, okay, I want to build a cash flow monster with the highest profit margins. And then in my mind, I'm like, if we're cash flowing 100, 500k a month eventually, okay, 500k a month is a long way down the line, but I'm sure we can get there at some point. Then I can buy houses that it doesn't matter. Like, I just buy them and then they sit there and they just do the thing, and that's it. And that's all it really needs to be for me anyway. And that's the kind of vision that I have of it. But obviously, again, that's why I'm asking, because everyone has different goals and everyone also has different reasons for doing it. Like, running a cash flowing business is a different entity and a different thing within itself, and it doesn't necessarily require a completely different skill set, but there are, you know, different bits within it that you have to factor in. So I think it kind of depends on what you actually want and what you're looking for. So that's what I would say on that. But one of the questions,
I think the strategy you're doing is amazing. I think it's going to be an absolute beast, and you know it is. Yes, I'm impatient in wanting to own stuff. I see, like, especially down the south coast. I mean, if I went any further south, I'd literally be in the water, and the capital appreciation down here is crazy. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's like fear of missing out on that capital appreciation, right? Everything I've bought and owned is going up in the background
Yeah.
without me thinking about it. Um, and yeah, I don't know, slightly different mindset, I guess. I should have unlocked that cash flow first when I left the car business. I should have gone into property and unlocked cash flow through rent
Mm.
to rents and then started buying stuff. But it's kind of what I know is buying stuff, renovating it, selling it, and then getting that big chunk of cash rather than getting small drops every month. It's big injections of cash once you
Yeah.
sell something. And I mean, I have changed it obviously because I'm keeping stuff and renting it out. So I do have cash flow now rather than just relying
Yeah.
on flips. But it's building a different beast to what
No,
you're doing. Yeah, so
absolutely.
definitely.
And I think what people fail to factor in or realize is like that's not it's not a part-time thing. It's not a passive income thing or whatever. It will get you, if you've got a cash flow issue and you want to get out of your job, absolutely, this is what you should be doing. Like I will die on that hill. Like you should be managing
Yeah.
Airbnbs, you should be
Yeah.
doing rent to rent, you should be whatever you should be doing. And I
Yeah.
will die on that hill. And that's where 99%
Agreed.
of people are who want to start their first business. So you should do that and you should die on that hill because a BRR is not going to get you there quick enough or not get you there quick enough. It can be a longer term play that you want to make, that's fine, but it's not going to get you there quick enough. And as I said, I'll die on that hill till I finish talking about breath.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's also not passive income. It's also not this and that everyone makes it out to be. Like we have got multiple employees and I outsource a lot and I do this and I try and spend my time on what I feel is the highest leverage tasks. So I spend a lot of time on social media, podcasts, filming, making sales, getting leads, that kind of stuff. Because I'm the face of the business alongside my mum, and that is where I can offer the most
Yeah.
leverage. Doing other tasks in the background, that's where I can outsource that to other people. But if I stepped away, in a way, like part of the greatness about building a personal brand, but also part of the downfall is that you are the brand. So if you step away, it makes it hard. But there's also again leverage, outsource, etc. But that's a 5-10 year plan for me. When I become a multi-millionaire,
Yeah.
of course I can step away more, but I'm not there yet. And
Yeah.
and that's where you've kind of got to do that along the way. Um,
I think we're a lot more alike than you realise. To be fair, I know we're doing different strategies, but like you said, my high, like kind of high leverage tasks that I should be doing on my business is, like you said, social media, meeting investors, putting
yeah.
my name out there, building connections, and kind of pacifying the bits that I shouldn't be doing, which is hands-on, ripping walls down and clearing up the site after the build has been. So like the flip that I did recently, which we made almost 100% passive, and I know everyone's going to jump on this and go, "There's no such thing as 100%." It was as close to passive
Yeah.
as we could have got, and that was a flip that made 30 grand in 5 weeks, and that is because now I've built up my network in Southampton, and my power team is so strong. I have full trust in leaving my builder on site to get that project over
Yeah.
the line, while I'm away building connections
Yeah.
and investors for the next project, so I can roll the team straight onto the next one. So yeah, we're using the same steps, mate,
Yeah,
but to get to a different
absolutely.
peak
No,
of the mountain.
absolutely. But I think that's like, for your first one, for example, but you weren't doing all those high leverage tasks, but neither was I. Like I was still staging properties, I was still doing XYZ things. But as the business grows and as you can develop, you learn that certain things you have to do because, as you said, my value is far more placed in me sitting meeting with developers and landlords and that kind of stuff to say like, look, this is our business, this is what we offer, and being on the front of that than sitting in the background doing guest communication, etc. Because the leverage isn't there as much, and that's how you grow a really big business is by leverage. Is how can I get this out to the most people at the most time of the highest value, and that's why social media is a brilliant tool. And then one of the questions that I'll ask you is, for you then, if you're looking at your side of the business, there's kind of two factors of like generating leads, right? You need to generate leads in terms of getting deals, and you need to generate leads in terms of investors. How have you gone about the investor side of things first to generate those leads?
The investor side of stuff is one thing, personal brand. That is it. I spend a lot of time on Instagram. I now cross post using my CRM to LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, everything. But I spend a lot of time putting my face to my brand. The logo is this here, my face, and my business name is Adam Barker Property. Well, that is as about as personal as you can get for a personal brand. And a lot of my videos are me holding the phone on site saying, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I've done in the past with investors. I talk about investing a lot. So I don't pitch people. I'm not on Instagram saying, I will give you 10% and this is why you should do it. What I do is I talk about relationships that I've made in the past and how I've used that relationship to succeed in a project where I've won and my
Yeah,
investor has won.
absolutely.
So that people are subconsciously thinking, okay, well, if that was me, I could have been in those shoes and I could do a project without them, and I could be that person that's earned 50% of that project without lifting a shovel, and I could earn 12% when actually I'm earning 4%. I could be that person. So rather than hard pitching people, I'm very conversational, very relaxed, very personable, and I'll reach out to people on Instagram and I'll say, hey, look, it's Adam. I know you've been following me for a while. I appreciate it. Have you ever thought about getting involved with me and doing stuff together? And it's not hard pitches. I'm not a salesman. I mean, I think that's actually why we did well in the car business. So when people would come into the office, Dan and I, my business partner, we would sit and have coffee for half an hour with a customer with our feet up on the sofa. And then we'd go, oh, yeah, you're actually here to view a car. Should we go and have a look at the Tesla? And that was how we sold more cars. It was that building
Yeah.
rapport, relationship stuff. And actually, the salesy bit probably earned us a bit of money, but the rapport building and the relationships sold 9 out of 10 cars on
No,
their
I
own.
completely agree with that. I think people people spend far too much time on the close and not enough time on the value. And if you provide
Yeah,
so much value,
100%.
the close is almost self-sufficient and it closes itself because they want to work with you. And
100%.
if they've consumed
Yeah.
so much of your content, and that's why social media is so important. Like, it doesn't, everyone thinks, oh, it has to be selling a course or mentorship or whatever. It can be anything, right? You can use social media to generate forms for any lead of business, but it takes time. Like, you've not built that social media up over 2 weeks, but it generates leads for you now and it helps
No.
you make money because you've given so much value and so much equity to people, like brand equity, that they are bought into you before you even have a conversation with them. They know who Adam Barker Property is before Adam Barker Property even has actually said a word to them in real life.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and I agree with this whole 7 touch point thing, right? No one's going to buy from you, invest with you, unless they've had 7 touch points. So I think, I mean, I don't have a massive following, to be fair. I've been doing my Instagram about a year now, and there's 3,000 followers. Everyone says to me, oh, I want to go viral. It's like, why would you want to go viral? You're going to end up with 1 million followers, and none of them are people that are going to buy from you. They just really like the clip that
Yeah.
you put on. Is it better to have a massive following of just people that enjoy your content, or is it better to have 3,000 followers, which is quite small, but they're high value customers that actually they can see the vision and they're invested in what you're doing? And then when you do that reach out, they're like, oh, he's got a space. Like, I only work with 1 or 2 investors each property, so there's not loads of space for loads of investors. So people see that and they're like, yeah, I want to jump on this one, or can I jump on the next one? And you start building a bit of urgency. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I think it's crucial. I think it's so important, social
It's
media.
the quality of the lead,
Definitely.
not the quantity of the leads.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather one investor say, I'm in, I'm locked in, I've been following you for a year, I want to do this next one with you. Where do I sign up? Rather than 10 people going, oh, can you tell me a bit more? Or have you done any projects
Yeah.
before? Or if it's the first time they're hearing from me. Like, and I am finding that now. So when I do put hooks out online saying, all right, I've got another project coming up, the leads coming in are
Yeah.
great. Like same day leads, multiple leads in one day. And it's great, but it's people that are warm. It's not people that have come from a Google ad when they didn't realize they were looking for a property investment, but now they've seen my ad and they're coming
Yeah.
completely cold.
Exactly.
So
You've got to.
yeah, the personal brand stuff.
No, I think that's
basically.
massive. I think one of the most important things is, as you said, is giving value and warming up those leads along the whole process.
Yeah. I mean, it costs nothing either. It cost me £0 to post on 6 platforms every day.
No, exactly.
So I don't know why everybody's not doing it.
I don't know. I think it's the highest leverage thing, and it's one of the things that I'm really focusing on at the moment because it's
Yeah,
if
me too.
you post out there and you leverage that, then the service delivery, the sale closes itself, and then the service delivery can be quite easy because you can have a lot of people on the back end helping with the service delivery. So like you've got to build a team,
Yeah.
whatever team you have, you can build that out over time. So
Yeah.
One thing that I want to ask you, and this is kind of the final question, because I think you've given a lot of values and really, really good points here. Um, if you could go back to yourself, let's say 10 years ago, and give yourself 60 seconds worth of advice, what would you say?
Pay for your education, not your mistakes. That has been an absolute game changer for me, honestly. The property world would have been a very different journey. I flipped the first three houses with no education. I made so many mistakes, lost thousands of pounds, and then I got educated. And then I'm not saying I'm never going to have mistakes again, but the education has paid for itself 10 times at least since last year,
Okay.
just in that 18 months alone. So I think, yeah, pay for your education, get educated first, go in, then you'll go in with a clear, concise plan, not, I want to do this. Okay, now this works and this works. And you're just kind of forming your way. Yeah, get some education and draw out the route from A to B without going through G, H, Q, and P over there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Adam. This has been the Founders File podcast with Adam Barker. It's
Pleasure.
been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Let's do
Yeah,
another one soon.
absolutely.